Hello everyone, welcome back to Strawberry Podfic. We are, once again, continuing Hysterical. Chapter 3, Bronze, Part 2, It's a Ripped Shrek. Summary. Bakugo, why did you beat up the Hulk's son? And then in the notes, we've got a trigger warning for a small suicide joke towards the end in reference to Midoriya's resetting. And the author says that this will most likely be a common occurrence for future chapters, and they will never make fun of suicide, only Midoriya's suicidal nature in this particular fic. And we start. 2 years before the entrance exam. Midoriya's front door slammed open with a vigor that seemed to shake the entire apartment complex. Midoriya, who had been in the process of putting on some red sneakers, watched as Bakugo rushed in and proceeded to shut and lock the door behind him. What did you do? Nothing. Bakugo couldn't sound more guilty if he tried. Midoriya simply crossed his arms. I may have pissed off a kid. At that moment, there was the sound of something ramming against the door. The something seemed to carry a lot of weight. This is not to say that the something, whoever or whatever it may be, was fat per se, but only that it was definitely on the larger side. That doesn't sound like a kid. Well, he sort of told his dad. There was a muffled scream from outside. I know you're in there! Come out and fight, you brat! The voice was deep and gruff, and had there still been any doubts about the something being a child, nearly all of them were quelled upon hearing it. What did you do? Doesn't matter, Bakugo said with a wave of his hand. He deserved it. Sure he did. Midoriya bent down to finish tying his shoes. Why did you come here, though? Your house was closer. He stood. Fair enough. You're welcome to hide out here if you want. I'm going to go for a jog. Wait, don't go out there, Bakugo said, frantically as he grabbed Midoriya at the back of Midoriya's shirt. Kachan, I didn't beat up this man's kid. I'll be fine. He turned the knob. The door opened to reveal an 8-foot, 5-inch tall slab of muscle blocking his way. Now I realize that some of you may struggle to imagine what this height entails, and as such, many not grasp the absolute terror such a man emits. For this reason, I will liken him to an 8-foot tall tree, something I am sure many of you have experienced at some point in your life. As for how terrifying he was, please for a moment imagine you have a deathly fear of trees. The fear the two boys felt upon seeing the man was the same as the fear one might feel in the presence of a horrifying 8-foot tall tree. The man's quirk caused him to have rough green skin. At the risk of sounding quirkist, I would describe him as an ogre. A jacked Shrek, if you will, with horns. You can see how this would be rather unsettling, I'm sure. Especially when you take into account that from the man's expression, it was clear he was unable to differentiate between the brat who beat up his son and Midoriya. The door closed. Midoriya turned on his heels. Upon further consideration, I have decided to cancel my jog. There was another loud bang on the door. Come die, you little shit! I'd rather not, thanks! Bakugo shouted back. This garnered a ferocious growl from the man who did not seem to be a fan of Bakugo's cheek. Midoriya, upon hearing the growls, turned to Bakugo. Good golly, what did you do to tick off the Hulk? The Hulk's son, actually, he clarified. Midoriya waved his arms in the air. Regardless, there was a literal giant outside my door. Yeah, that's why I'm staying here. Going out would most likely result in pain, which is something I try to avoid. Midoriya scoffed. Wimp, I regularly break bones and you don't hear me complaining. Bakugo's face lit up. What's that face for? What face? This is a normal face. Midoriya took a step back. Nope, I know that face. That's your scheming face. I don't have a scheming face. You do, and that's it. Bakugo rolled his eyes. I just had an idea, that's all. Do I want to know? Well, I can feel pain. But you can't. Bakugo grinned. Kachan, I swear. He was cut off as Bakugo sprung forward, and after a moment of the two wrestling, Midoriya found himself unceremoniously out the door. Midoriya found himself shoved unceremoniously out the door. Even after hearing the distinct sound of the lock, he struggled with the door handle for a moment. "Kachan, you jerk! I'm not going to play sacrifice to your mistakes!" "Thanks, Izu! I owe you one!" Bakugo's voice called from inside. There was a low growl behind Midoriya. Slowly, the boy turned around to face the monster of a man in front of him. "Good morning, sir! I don't suppose we can talk this out." The growling got louder. Midoriya sighed. "Yeah, I didn't think so." Bakugo stood near the door, patiently waiting. There was the sound of a scuffle outside, yet he stayed, hands clasped together until the noise died down. After a moment of silence, there was the sound of Midoriya banging on the door. "Let me in, Kachan!" "Is he gone?" "He will be as soon as he wakes up." Bakugo unlocked the door and watched as Midoriya pushed past him, cradling a broken arm. "Nice job, now I have to fix this." He waved the limp arm in front of Bakugo's face, "instead of going on my jog." Bakugo, however, was looking at the unconscious body outside the door. "Holy shit, Izzy, you didn't have to kill him." "Oh, he's fine. I, on the other hand..." "I mean, it worked, didn't it?" Midoriya rolled his eyes. "You owe me big time." He looked at his phone. "My mom's going to be home soon, but thanks to you, I will be unconscious. So I think it's only fair that you explain this mess to her." It was only a few minutes later when Inko walked in, arms laden with groceries. "Hey, Auntie!" Inko nearly dropped her bags. "Oh, Katsuki! Didn't see you there." She sat the groceries on the table. "How are you doing this morning?" He shrugged. Inko looked around. "And where's Izuku?" Bakugo tilted his head towards the stairs, resetting. "Ah," she pursed her lips. "Does this perhaps have anything to do with the unconscious man outside?" "Ah, shit, he's still there?" Did you get in another fight?" He stopped and looked at his friend's mother. There was no use lying to her, and Bakugo knew it. Through the years, the two boys found that while they could hide things from Inko to some extent, it was nearly impossible to get away with outright lying to her. It was this knowledge that caused Bakugo to bow his head in shame. "Yeah." "Are you okay?" she asked, concern being her natural first reaction. Bakugo merely waved a hand and nodded. "Izu took care of it, and I assume that is why he's upstairs resetting right now?" Bakugo winced. "Yeah." She sighed. "Just what am I going to do with you two?" "You could feed us," Midoriya called as he ran down the stairs fully healed. "I'm starving." "Izuku, Midoriya," Inko crossed her arms. "Did you get into another fight?" Midoriya froze. It was his fault." He pointed at Bakugo, who looked incredibly offended at the totally accurate accusation. "Izuku, you can't just get into fights with grown man." "I'd say he can, by the looks of it," Bakugo muttered. At the same time, Midoriya complained. "That's not fair. It's not like I was trying to get into a fight." "Look here." She turned to Bakugo, who had lost interest and was now absent-mindedly looking at his phone. "Both of you." Once she had their attention, she continued. "You boys have got to tune down this reckless behavior. I can't keep coming home to find unconscious bodies on my doorstep." "You do realize that's only happened twice," Bakugo said. "Which is 2 times more than most people. And Izuku," she turned to her son, "you may be immortal, but that does not mean you need to be suicidal." He winced at the berating. "Sorry, Mom." Her voice softened. Please do be careful. All this action is scaring your... Is that scarring or scaring? Scarring your poor mother. "I don't get why that's the big deal." "He can't die," Bakugo said. "He might not be able to die, but you can, mister. Next time I hear word of you fighting, I'm calling your mother. You can't threaten me. The old hag will just yell at me till she's not mad." He shrugged. "No big deal." Inko tilted her head and grinned wickedly. "Is that so? Then I don't suppose you'd mind if I told your father." Bakugo's eyes widened. "You wouldn't." "If I find another body on my doorstep, I won't hesitate to." Bakugo shuddered. "Fine. Whatever, I guess." The truth was, Bakugo could easily weather any amount of screaming and nagging without a problem. Yet as soon as anyone whose opinion he valued, which was a difficult thing to achieve in itself, expressed a slight disappointment in him, Bakugo fell apart. This ended up being his father's primary means of parenting due to how effective it was. Bakugo knew that if his father were to become aware of his less-than-heroic behavior that day, he would be subjected to the following: a week's worth of worried expressions, a slight headshake, and perhaps even a hand on his shoulder as his father uttered a soft, "I'm not mad." I'm just disappointed that you've done this. Knowing this, Bakugo decided it was in his best interest to keep the situation between Auntie Inko, Midoriya, and himself. This is of course only reasonable if one does not know that Bakugo's father was well acquainted with his behavior. In fact, his father knew all too much about Bakugo's tendency to make his opinion known through his fists during arguments, among other things. Masaru had decided long ago that his son was far too much like his mother to be able to be much influenced by anything he could ever do. This resulted in him only pulling out the disappointed eyes for matters that truly necessitated such punishment. I myself am not totally sure if sacrificing his immortal best friend to an evil Shrek would qualify, but it seems I will never know, as Bakugo seemed quite content to meet Inko's demands of not knocking out men in front of her door again, and as such, the event was kept from Masaru. Now, if you two would help me out, I'm making soba for supper. The two boys followed Inko into the kitchen, and the unconscious man was forgotten as more pressing matters arose, specifically the grumbling of two growing boys' growling stomachs. And that was the end of that bit. I'm going to check how long this is, and then if it's not too long, I'll record the next bit of... Oh, the next bit is just the whole next chapter. Okay. I'm going to see how long this is. It's only 11 minutes long. I'm gonna start the next chapter. Chapter 4. Red, White, and Gold Glitter. Part 1. Adrenaline Junkie. Summary. Midoriya is an adrenaline junkie. What's new? The year of the entrance exam, Sledge Villain Arc. Bakugo heard a small tapping at his window. The hell? He then turned his attention to the clock, which read 1:47 a.m. Upon reading the time, he realized a few things. First, he'd been asleep. Second, he was no longer asleep, and probably most importantly, some idiot had somehow managed to wake him up in the middle of the night by tapping on his 5th-story window. He angrily, as per usual, threw off his blankets and stomped to his window, where he could see the unmistakable green hair of his friend clinging to the fire escape. He opened the window and resisted, barely, the urge to cuss out the boy for waking him up so early. Instead, he settled for hissing across the distance, "What the hell are you doing?" Midoriya simply put a finger to his lips and tapped his phone. Bakugo slunk back inside and clicked on the notification. Adrenaline Junkie. Care to join me for some midnight parkour? Lord Explodo. Auntie's gonna kill you. Adrenaline Junkie. What she doesn't know won't hurt her. Smiley face. How about it? Lord Explodo. It's the ass crack of dawn, bastard. Adrenaline Junkie. Aw, does Kachan need his beauty sleep? Bakugo responded with a string of middle finger emojis, which, in case you weren't aware, is the pictogram version of fuck you. Why he sent pictures, rather than actually typing it out, is beyond me. However, Midoriya seemed to get the message as he sent a picture of a face sticking its tongue out in response. Now, while this is not the, shall I say, the conventional response to being confronted with such vulgar terminology, it was actually pretty typical for Midoriya. Lord Explodo. Just this once, Adrenaline Junkie. As he turned to dress in a more suitable outfit, he smiled to himself. The next day, Midoriya was acting more energetic than typical as they walked to school. He skipped around Bakugo, jumped up and down, and generally acted like a complete oddity for the Wednesday morning. Bakugo yawned and sipped his coffee. Gosh, Kachan, you look like crap. Bakugo glared at him and pointed an accusatory finger. Whose fault is that? Aw, you totally enjoyed parkouring. I'd have enjoyed it more if it wasn't on a school night. Next time we'll do it on the weekend. There won't be a next time, junkie. Whatever you say, Kachan, Midoriya teased. Before running out of the way of the expected fist, he did a cartwheel while he waited for Bakugo to catch back up. Bakugo just rolled his eyes at this. Show off. Me? Never. What's got you so worked up anyway? Don't play dumb. You've been like 5 times more spastic this last week. Well, you know me, adrenaline rush and all. Bakugo sighed exasperatedly. Just spill it already. Midoriya absent-mindedly scratched the back of his head. It's just all the talk about careers and the future at school got me thinking. Bakugo spun and grasped Midoriya's collar. You ain't backing out, are you? You have to become a hero so I can beat you once and for all. Chill, I'm still gonna be a hero. Oh, Bakugo dropped his friend. So, then what's the problem? Well, I'm gonna have to pass the UA entrance exam to get in, and as useful as this quirk is, it's gonna be tricky, so I guess I'm just worried about not being strong enough. Hence, the midnight parkour. Yup. Bakugo scoffed. They'd have to be idiots to not let you in. You're going to be a hero one way or another. It just depends on whether or not we have to threaten them or not. Kachan, we can't threaten them. Why not? You got all those stalker notes. I'm sure there's some stalker blackmail material in there. That's not the point. Lame. Why do you even have stalker notes if you aren't going to blackmail people? We've been through this before. I know, Bakugo said. Guess you'll just have to get stronger, huh? Yeah, Midoriya sighed. I wish there was a way I could spontaneously develop a strength quirk before the exam. Bakugo laughed. While we're dreaming, I want All Might to autograph my shirt. Like he'll ever touch that sweaty rag of yours. I'd have better clothes if you didn't get blood all over them. Wouldn't fix that sweating problem of yours. It's my quirk, you bastard! Bakugo growled at his friend and began to chase him. They ran like this all the way to school, Bakugo shouting cusses while Midoriya laughed at him. Let's go! What's taking you so long? Bakugo complained as Midoriya packed up his books at the end of class. Go on without me. Mr. Shibata wants to talk to me. Bakugo looked up at their teacher, who was talking to a different student at the front of the class. Upon confirming that he was out of earshot, he turned to whisper to Midoriya. The hell does that quirkus bastard want with you? He hissed. Though I am not typically a fan of Bakugo's colorful language, I will agree that quirkus bastard is an apt description for Shibata. He was a 35-year-old single man who had been teaching for the last 10 years of his life. All 10 had reflected poorly on his character. However, an uncle of his with power in the school board ensured his position. As for his permanent single status, it was entirely his own fault. The man seemed to value powerful quirks over any personality. Unfortunately, considering his quirk allowed him to change the texture of his skin, which by all definitions is a lame quirk, the quirkist judgment transferred over to his class and caused him to be extremely lenient to those with hero quirks and far less gracious to those without. From this, Midoriya had pointed out several times in the past that Bakugo was seemingly immune to detention because of their teacher's poor morals. A fact Bakugo had been happy to take advantage of by regularly getting into fights, something Midoriya had chided him repeatedly for. I don't know what he wants. I swear, if he gives you shit about wanting to be a hero, I'll... It's fine, Kachan. I'll see you later. Bakugo ignored the invitation to leave. Midoriya was clearly anxious about the situation, knowing full well the meeting would be about his application to UA. Hey, want to meet at my house after? We can watch that All Might movie you like so much. Bakugo wasn't the best at cheering people up. He didn't do cheerful, so he typically banked on the knowledge that Midoriya had an unnatural love for All Might. This line of thinking had worked well over the years, and Bakugo was confident it would continue to do so for the years to come. Midoriya smiled slightly. Sure, I'll walk down after I'm done here. You sure you don't want me to wait for you? I'll be fine. With that, Bakugo turned and left, and Midoriya found himself alone in the room with Mr. Shibata. He took a deep breath. And that is the end of this part of this chapter. I'm gonna end it here, and you'll get the next bits next week. See ya. Oh, wait, I forgot to say, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Goodbye for real this time.